Coming up on this episode, when you watch these clips, those people were not acting. They were in full panic and desperately trying to escape with their lives. Somewhere in all that chaos with these thousands were Ward Bond, Andy Devine, and John Wayne. Thanks for stopping by. I did not know that. Please like and subscribe.
Please stop saying don't forget to like and subscribe.
Sure, but how are we going to get followers?
In 1928, during the twilight of the silent movie era, a monumental film project emerged that was called Noah's Ark. Billed as the ultimate biblical spectacle of its time, it had ambitions to surpass even Cecil B. DeMille's original film of the Ten Commandments, released just a few years prior to 1928. However, the pursuit of creating this cinematic masterpiece led to tragedy and a terrifying ordeal for those who were appearing in it. The decisions made by the film's director, driven by a desire for greatness, resulted in a shocking and repulsive tragedy that reverberated throughout the film industry. What happened to the actors and the extras involved in its production were so shocking and disturbing that they prompted the establishment of stringent safety standards within the industry afterward. It also served as a stark reminder of what can happen when someone disregards their morals and empathy in their quest for greatness. As I mentioned, the film was shot in 1928, and there were three actors in this film who you know very well. There was Ward Bond, who played Ernie the cop in It's a Wonderful Life, and he also appeared in countless westerns throughout the years. He's probably best known as Trailmaster Seth Adams in the TV series Wagon Train. There was Andy Devine, who also starred in many westerns and appeared with Roy Rogers as his sidekick named Cookie in Rogers' films. Last but certainly not least was Hollywood's greatest western star of all time, John Wayne. The three of them appeared in many films together, and they were great friends. But when they were hired for Noah's Ark, the three were only in their 20s and they were complete unknown. They were hired as extras in the film, and they were unbilled. But this job could have easily cost all three of them their lives. Let's find out what happened. Ambition is a wonderful thing, but blind ambition can be very dangerous, and it appears that the director of this film had plenty of that. His name was Michael Curtiz, and he was determined to make the most spectacular film of all time. His vision was not to only show the Ark of Noah, but to show the devastation such a great flood would have caused. The Bible not only said that it rained, but that the fountains of the deep were released. There's actually an estimated 3 to 5 times more water underneath the Earth's crust than all the world's oceans combined. Such an event would be catastrophic to all the buildings and structures on Earth if all that water was suddenly released. When he showed famed cinematographer Hal Moore how this flood scene was going to be shot, Moore was horrified. Curtiz planned on releasing an incredible 600,000 gallons of water on the extras. Aside from the water, buildings and statues would also be collapsing around the extras. Curtiz also planned on releasing longhorn steer and dummies into the raging flood with the people. While trained stuntmen might have had some idea what to expect, the thousands of extras would have no idea what they were getting themselves into. Moore told him that doing this would be extremely dangerous, and it would place many of the extras' lives in danger. Curtiz replied, they're just going to have to take their chances. Moore was so disgusted that his objections were ignored, he quit the picture. As they began to shoot the flood scene, what Moore and others feared would happen came to fruition. Cameraman Byron Haskins tells of what happened that day.
Curtiz was a very excitable guy and pretty sadistic. Would go out of control a great deal. I remember a scene that I walked over to the Vitagraph lot where they were making it, and they let go with about 50 dump tanks and a big reservoir with extras in the path of this flood. Not stunt people, you know. And they came tumbling down topsy-turvy, with Curtiz screaming at him from the sidelines and throwing two before.
When you watch these clips, those people were not acting. They were in full panic and desperately trying to escape with their lives. Somewhere in all that chaos with these thousands were Ward Bond, Andy Devine, and John Wayne. With a cast of that many extras, you can see why no one has been able to identify them individually in any of these disaster shots. One of the stars of the film was an actress named Dolores Costello. She's also the grandmother of actress Drew Barrymore. Here is her memory of what happened that day.
It was brutal. I called it mud, blood, and flood. There was much blood. Mr. Curtiz had been told which were the breakaways, which were the permanent parts of the set. And they had long-horned steer in there, and human beings, and some dummies. But he put the human beings where the real set was, and the dummies where the breakaway was, because he wanted realism, as he called it. There were people injured. I found a man leaning against my dressing room door, which was really an office. And he was heavily bandaged. And I said, "What's wrong?" He said, 38 ambulances have left. I'm in better condition than most of them, and they're coming back for me. And he said, "I think somebody's been killed."
Costello herself was also a victim. The water they used was ice cold, and she became ill after shooting her scene and was stricken with a severe case of pneumonia. Most reports claim that aside from all the injuries that day, that 3 extras died doing this scene. One man was so gravely injured that his leg needed to be amputated. It's almost impossible to find out any details of this tragedy because back in the day, those who ran Hollywood were experts at hiding negative stories from the public or making them disappear altogether. Despite extensive searching in newspaper archives, this is the only story I could find on the tragedy, and it was just a small item about Dolores bruising her face during the filming, but that she's all healed up and ready to go. The one positive that came from all of this was that it forced the film industry to establish stunt safety standards. I wish I could tell you that director Michael Curtiz paid dearly for his actions and that he was punished severely. But incredibly, he was never charged with a crime or reprimanded in any way. When shooting another film less than 10 years later, he used a tripwire on 125 horses during a charging sequence in the film. The falls caused the death of 25 of the horses, and the cruelty enraged his lead actor Errol Flynn so much that he physically attacked Curtiz. Fortunately for him, there were enough men to pull Flynn off. While the critics didn't care too much for Noah's Ark, the film made money. Curtiz went on to direct such acclaimed films such as Casablanca, Captain Blood, and The Adventures of Robin Hood. One last note, in an ironic twist, in the 1970s, the star you saw earlier, Dolores Costello, had a considerable amount of her property, belongings, and memorabilia destroyed. How were they destroyed, you might ask? In a flash flood, of course. Hey, that's it for this little-known tidbit of movie-making history. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching.
Better